Have you ever been out on the field in harsh daylight and you just couldn't get the photos that you wanted to take? All your photos were coming out overexposed, flat, and just not tasteful at all. So in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about a few tips, a few techniques you can use to help improve your photography in harsh lighting conditions, midday, and how to use the sun. So if you guys are ready, let's get right into it. So I recently went on a portrait shoot and we were at the Pier 39 location in San Francisco, California. I'd say we weren't there quite at golden hour. We were there a little bit before that. And that's the first thing I want to talk about. If possible, you always want to try to shoot when the sun is at a lower angle. If the sun is directly overhead, around noontime, at its peak strength, everything on the ground, on the earth is going to be illuminated, and it's going to be hard to incorporate shadows in your shot. Why that's bad is because if there are no shadows, there's going to be no contrast in your image. If everything is just fully lit, you're not going to see any shadows. You're not going to introduce any depth in your photos. It's not going to feel real. It's not going to feel tangible. So tip number one out of the way, shooting at golden hour, as close to golden hour if possible, is your best bet. Now, what if you can't, really time it? What if the only time you're available is to shoot in the peak afternoon when the sun is at its highest? So a couple things you could try to do is a technique called backlit shooting. And what that does is it creates a nice separation between your subject and the background by illuminating their rear side, which gives a nice kind of a contrasty look, which introduces depth, sharpness, and makes your image stand out a lot more. So shooting backlit is pretty straightforward, guys. You want to try to position the light source behind your subject. And, depending on where the sun is, higher, lower, the key is just to get it behind and then you framing your shot in a correct orientation. The 90-degree rule is positioning the sun to the side of your subject. Now, that could be modified. It could be to the side or kind of at an angle. To me, I never want to put my subject, especially for portrait shoots, with them directly in the face of the sun. It's not going to be flattering for your model, your subject, and again, there's going to be zero contrast in there, and it's going to be a flat image. Oftentimes, it's as easy as if the sun is peeking right at my face and I'm the photographer in front, I'm either going to have them turn their body or I'm going to move around to the side to get the shot. And, having good communication with your subject or just you taking a few steps off a certain direction is going to make a huge difference in your photos. Sometimes, what if there is no light? What if it is an overcast, foggy day? Well, in that case, the lighting is going to be a bit more even keel. It could be easier for you depending on the look you're going for, but in order to prevent a flat look, another thing that will add dimension and layers to your photo is adding color. So finding things that stand out, that pop, that will also introduce dimension and depth to your photo. So aside from using the sun, you want to find sources of color, things that stand out, things that are naturally vivid that can help add more feel to your photos, aesthetics. Okay, so if you're shooting in a gray day and you're shooting a gray rock and the sand is gray, there's going to be no separation. There will be no contrast. So having things, different colors, lighting positions, those are all going to help you make a great photo. Another tip, guys, for properly exposing your shots in harsh daylight is to crank your shutter speed. So it's not uncommon for people to go to shutter speeds as high as 1/4000th of a second, which is the highest shutter speed I have mechanically on my A7C Mark II. And at times I will find that when I'm shooting in aperture priority, my shutter speed will automatically bump up that much to evenly expose the shot. So if you're shooting at a shutter that is too slow, more light is going to be into your shot, which means it could be potentially overexposed. Going back to camera settings, you also want to make sure you're shooting in RAW, because what that's going to allow you to do is have more flexibility in post. So if you do end up accidentally overexposing your shot, you can bring back the highlights, dial them back in Lightroom. So, which is very important. I literally never shoot in JPEG because everything is kind of somewhat baked into the image, so it's harder to restore shadows and dial back the highlights. So again, I'm always shooting in RAW, and it's something I recommend everyone doing, shoot in RAW. I guess the final message that I want to impart to you guys from this video is that when the lighting is harsh, you need to understand how to use the shadows. You need to be hunting for the shadows actually, because if there's lighting everywhere, again, there's going to be no contrast, there's going to be no detail, no separation. Everything's going to look flat. Okay, you're not going to see any gradations, no layering. Everything is going to look 2D almost. And a great image is always going to have layers to it: background, foreground, subject. So what I recommend is hunting for the shadows, whereas the opposite, if you're shooting in nighttime, low light, you're hunting for the light. In daytime, harsh lighting, you're hunting for shadows. And when you finally learn how to utilize shadows into your photos, they're going to be so much more aesthetic, more flattering, pleasing, and overall, it's going to be a great shot. But again, it's to everyone's taste, to everyone's style. But for me, this is what I find works the best. And I know for a fact that I used to have a hard time exposing my subjects in broad daylight, harsh lighting settings and conditions. So this is one takeaway, something I've learned along my journey that I want to share with you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all of you. Thanks for the support on this channel lately. Wish everybody out there happy holidays, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.